Hello book friends, welcome or welcome back. My name is Mel and it is so lovely to have you here. I thought today it would be really fun to film the mid-year book tag. It is June already. I have no idea how we have reached this point in the year. I feel like it has absolutely flown by. To date, I have read quite a lot of books. So I thought it would be really fun to go through a couple of these questions with you. These videos are always some of my favorite to watch around this time of year. I get so many book recommendations to carry on the second half of my year, but then I also get a heap of anticipated releases that I just love adding to my list and keeping an eye out in bookshops and also on my Kindle for. Today I'm going to be answering questions off Emmy Rosam's last year's mid-year book tag, only because it's really difficult to actually find where this original book tag came from and who to credit. So that's where I'm getting my questions from. Without further ado, let's get straight into it. So the first question is best books that you have read this year. I started off the year really strong. In January, I read Glow of the Everflame and Burn of the Everflame. These are by Penn Cole. These are books 2 and 3. Spark of the Everflame is the original and first book. This book series is phenomenal. I have not read a book series like this where I am addicted. It's fast paced. Every chapter ends on a cliffhanger and you have no idea where the series is going. All 3 of these books are 5 out of 5 stars for me, and I am devastated that we're not going to get book 4 until 2026 is what the rumors are. But if that does change and it comes out by the end of the year, you bet your bottom dollar I will be downloading that the day that it comes out. My next favorite book was Here One Moment by Liane Moriarty. I have only read a few Liane Moriarty books, but this one had me absolutely captivated. This is about a woman who has kind of an erratic episode and she's on a plane that is currently waiting on the tarmac to be able to fly, and she goes down the aisle and she points to people telling them how they're going to die and how old they will be when they die. And you follow through in this book not only herself, and you go back in time and you realize why she's gotten to the point that she has to have this explosive episode, but also you follow the characters that she points at down the aisle and you start to follow their future to see if those predictions come true. It was really captivating. Most of Liane Moriarty's books really are a character study and she does it so well. You feel like these people are real. You want to have a conversation with them. You feel like you know how they function, and you can also kind of pick up different people that are around you that have those very similar habits and characteristics. So her descriptions of characters are just phenomenal, and I still think about that book to this day. I recommend it to so many people. Then we have The Favourites by Lainey Fargo. I cannot believe how much this book has stuck with me. When I initially started it, first 100 pages, I remember saying to someone that, oh, this book that I'm reading at the moment, I don't know, I'm not really vibing it. I feel like I'm just about to put it down. I pushed myself to read to 150, which I don't usually do. 100 pages is my mark where I go DNF or I go, okay, I'm gonna keep going. I am so glad I kept going with this book. The characters were so detailed and traumatized and complex and complicated, and their relationships and their peer pressure, but also the pressure that they're in dance skating was just so immense, and it helped you really understand why their reactions and why they were the way that they were. This book felt very similar to a Taylor Jenkins Reid type of vibe where we have an interview style happening. There are people that are getting interviewed throughout. They're kind of recounting what had happened in the past. It was fantastic and worth the hype, I would say. The next few books are actually out of a series. They're a quartet, and it is called the Snowy Mountain series by Alyssa Callan. This is Australian rural romance, and I listened to all 4 of these books on audio. They were fantastic. I'm not usually one to listen to audio books back to back to back, but I couldn't stop with these. They had a real distinct similarity to Lila Sage's Done and Dusted, Wild and Wrangled books, which I absolutely love. You're following a main character that is in a small town. They're all interconnected because it's either friendships or family relationships that are keeping this group all together, and you learn about all their different lives in their different books. The romance is lovely. The family and friendship relationships are also lovely, and the challenges that they come across, it's really nice to see how they support one another to help them through that situation. So all 4 of those books are honestly some of my favorite that I have read this year. And very excitingly, Alyssa Callan is actually coming to the Riverina Readers Festival this year, so So super excited to meet her in person and buy the physical books to be able to have them signed. Then of course it would not be a proper Mel Reviews Her Books video without me mentioning Wild and Wrangled as one of my favorite books this year already. As you would know from other book videos that I have filmed, but also my Instagram, last year and this year I have fallen in love with Lila Sage. I just love the small American town, everyone with their complexities, but a lot of found family and a lot of family support and friend support as well. Lost and Lassoed is certainly my favorite out of the whole series. I love Teddy and Gus's story. However, this book takes you on a serious journey of learning about who Cam and Dusty were before, when they were teenagers and they were teenage sweethearts, and then coming to the present and learning why they're not together, but also how they could possibly mend that friendship, which might build into a relationship again. This, of course, hands down, one of my faves for 2025. Then, of course, we have Quicksilver by Callie Hart. This book utterly destroyed me last month. I loved this book. I cannot wait for the next one. This was just the perfect romantasy. We had a little bit of world building, but we had lots of character development. I'm not a high fantasy girly, so to pick up this book and just feel like you can sink your teeth into it straight away, utterly divine. Cyrus and Kingfisher's relationship, it's complicated, but it works. The end of this book, oh my god, we are on a serious cliffhanger, and I can't stop thinking about it. I will constantly be thinking about this book until I get the second one. Next question is the best sequel that you have read this year, and I'm going to throw straight back to the first book that I mentioned, and it is Glow of the Everflame. I really enjoyed the first book, Spark of the Everflame, but Glow of the Everflame just kicked it up a notch, and then the third book also did the same. These are chunky books, but trust me, you fly through them and you feel like it will only take you a week to devour them. So definitely the best sequel that I have read this year. Then we have most anticipated releases for the second half of the year, and I have some solid releases that I am waiting for. So we have Five Found Dead by Solari Gentle. Solari is a lovely friend. She's also coming to the Readers Festival, but we haven't seen a book from her since not last year, but I want to say the year before, which was The Mystery Writer. I'm very excited to read this next standalone of Solari's. This book is actually set on the Orient Express, which, if you are a classic crime reader, you obviously know Agatha Christie's very famous Murder on the Orient Express. Solari actually went on the Orient Express and was very inspired to write this book, so I cannot wait to read that. That should be coming out at the late end of this year. We've also got Brimstone by Callie Hart. This is book 2 to Quicksilver. I am so excited. I have no idea where this is going to go. The end of Quicksilver was such a cliffhanger. Honestly, I just hope that nothing happens to come between Cyrus and Kingfisher. I'm going to be utterly devastated if it does. But I do know that there's a few books coming in this series, so book 2 better not tear my heart apart. Then we've also got Picture Perfect by Tessa Bailey. I mentioned this in my 2025 TBR. This comes out later in the year. I love Tessa Bailey. I read all of her books when they come out, or alternatively, I wait until there's a few and then I read them back to back to back. Usually she's a Kindle read for me because I devour them in about 24 to 48 hours. She puts something utterly addictive in these books and you can't stop. These are a sports romance mini-series that she's been doing. They're kind of interconnected standalone, so I'm keen to read this one. This is a baseball one, which I have not read a baseball sports romance before, so I'm excited for that. Then, of course, Lila Sage has another book coming out at the end of this year. It's called Soul Searching. She's kind of dropped hints that it's actually a bit paranormal, which I totally did not pick for her, but it's still like a country western paranormal. I'm telling you, I have not read anything like that before, but I have learnt that I love her writing. She is just a past basket author now. I will read anything that she writes, so fingers crossed. I really like it. Next question is new releases you haven't read yet but want to. I have far too many of these on my TBR, so we're gonna start straight away with Swept Away by Beth O'Leary. As it started to get wintry and cold here now, I've kind of moved away from reading the summer romances, and this is one of them that fits into that category. I should have read it a few months ago when I was feeling the vibe, but that's okay. Towards the end of the year, I have a good feeling I will be able to pick this up. Beth O'Leary is also one of my past Breadbasket Authors. I started reading her when she first published The Flat Share, and I have read consistently every book that she has released, and I love them all. Another one is called Falling Fast by Jenny Fletcher. Recently, I just listened to an audiobook by her, and I'm going to talk to you about that a little bit later on, but this is a Formula One sports romance. It is out already. I need to download it on Kindle, and I'm just super excited. I'm obviously in my Formula One romance era. Then this week, Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid was released. A space romance is not something as well that I thought that I would read and enjoy. However, it has had rave reviews. We know Taylor Jenkins Reid just has a way with words. It's going to be wonderful. Then we have Cockatoo Cove by Maya Linnell. Maya very kindly sent me this book, which I am so grateful for. I love Maya's books. One of the main characters in this book is from another book of hers called Kookaburra Cottage, which I absolutely adored, and I feel very special. I actually have a blurb on the back of that book, and it's divine. I'm so excited to read this as well. This is an Aussie rural romance. Maya is also another author who's coming to our Riverina Readers Festival this year, so it's going to be so great to catch up in person again. Then of course we've got this huge book, Silver Elite by Danny Francis. I purchased this in Dimmicks, Sydney recently, and it's gone on an absolute adventure in my bag, but I am yet to finish reading it. I started it when I got home. I've only read like 60 something pages, so this is definitely happening in the remaining 6 months of this year. A book that surprised you. This one for me was definitely The Favourites by Lainey Fargo. Like I mentioned, I was definitely going to DNF it, but I'm so pleased that I didn't. If you are put off by the fact that it's like an ice skating sports romance, don't be. Even if you don't know anything about ice skating, I certainly don't, you will be totally immersed in this story. You will be addicted to the characters, the complexities that they face, the challenges that they face, and just trying to unpack why they are the way that they are. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating, and a total surprise for me. What books disappointed you this year? I feel like I have had a few that I have DNF'd, but I honestly can't remember them because they've probably been books that I've started 50 or 100 pages and then I've given them away to a friend, or if they've been a borrowed book, I've given them back to the library either in person or digitally. One book that was sadly disappointing for me this year was Our Infinite Fates by Laura Stephen. I talked about this book in my most recent May wrap up. I was probably about 50 to 100 pages from the end, and I DNF'd it because I felt like I wasn't connected to the characters anymore. I certainly was in the beginning. I was really connected to their story and seeing where they were going, but things just really slowed down throughout the middle of the book. I'm going to put it in my street library once I have it up and running because I think someone will absolutely love this book. This sadly was one that disappointed me this year. Favorite new authors. I have two that I want to mention. One, I'm going to go back again, but Penn Cole with the Spark of the Everflame series. This has just knocked fantasy reading out of the park for me. I utterly adore them, and I think Penn Cole is going to be one of those authors that whatever she writes, I will read. Another author is Jenny Fletcher. The book that I listened to on audio was called Lights Out, and it was a Formula One romance, and this was kind of like my entry point into Formula One. But I have to say, this audiobook that was developed by Penguin Books, I have never listened to an audiobook that was this good vocally. There is one person who is narrating this, and they spoke in Italian, had an Italian accent, a male Italian accent, then they did English, they did Scottish, I think there was also French, there was Canadian, there was American. This voice actor was incredible, and it totally brought Jenny Fletcher's writing to life. I listened to this not long ago. It was like an 8-hour book, so it definitely didn't take long. I felt so connected to these characters and to the writing because of this narrator. I would highly recommend listening to this book on audio, and also Jenny Fletcher's writing is just so beautiful. It's a romance novel, but the connection that the characters have to one another and their empathy to one another, there's also so much humor in it, which I've really found so much fun. That is my new author, and also my new like audiobook recommendation too. Next, we're talking favorite covers of the year so far. Obviously, we love the Lila Sage cowboy graphic type of stuff. It's a given. I talk about these a lot, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time. However, love, love, love. Favorite cover always. Also, The Lost Story by Meg Schaefer. I utterly love this cover. It's really nice how these illustrations actually connect in with the story so well. The tree, the door, the red crow, all of it, and also just it being nighttime and magical and mystical. This book was fantastic. It was a really enjoyable read. It was very whimsy, very fantastical. You have to go in with an open mind. I would recommend actually not even reading the blurb. It's one of those books that you can just walk into and be totally immersed into a different world. Certainly one of my favorite covers of a book that I've read this year. Then we have What Books Do You Want to Finish by the End of the Year? I have barely read any literature this year, which I'm not usually a huge literary reader. However, I do dabble and I find it really nice to break up some of the romance and the fantasy sometimes. Picked out 3 books that I do really want to finish by the end of this year. The first one, 10 minutes and 38 seconds in this strange world. It's by Elaif Shafak. This book was shortlisted for the Booker Prize in 2019. It has been sitting on my shelf for quite a while. In Yazidi culture, there is the belief that as you pass into the afterlife, you sit in a limbo where no one really knows what happens, but it's for 10 minutes and 38 seconds. This book surrounds a woman's experience of that. I really do want to read this. I think it will be a really hard read in the way of an emotionally hard read, but I really would like to give it a go. Another I'd like to read is The Conversion by Amanda Lowry. I loved The Labyrinth by Amanda Lowry. She won the Miles Franklin Award a few years ago with that book. Her writing clicked in my brain. A lot of people felt like not many things actually happened in The Labyrinth, but to me, when I was reading it, it felt like so much was going on. Amanda developed this emotional labyrinth, but a physical labyrinth, a psychological labyrinth, a social labyrinth. There were so many elements of a labyrinth within her story that everything just connected and made sense to me. So I really hope that I have a similar reading experience with The Conversion. This is going to be a little bit different. This surrounds a church and living in a church, but also I want to say renovating a church as well and uncovering different pieces from the past. I'm very intrigued to see what this is all about, and also the fact that I've just loved her previous book so much. I feel like we're on a good trajectory, you know? Then we have The Work by Bree Lee. This book is going to be really hard-hitting. It is following a woman who is kind of in between making the decision of, does she chase her career that is just everything that she ever dreamed, or does she follow the path of love, or how do these things even intertwine, and how can she keep that sustainable for her well-being and for the life that she wants? So all very literary reads, all very emotional reads, but I really would like to get to all 3 of these by the end of the year. What book do you want to reread by the end of the year? Every single year it is The Book Thief by Marcus Zuzak. Usually it's a winter reread for me. It's one of the only books that I reread every single year, but it is my favorite book of all time. If you haven't read this, please do. It will change your life and you will probably want to reread it every single year like me. So that's my reread for the year. And the last question, what is a series that you want to finish by the end of the year? This has to be a start and a finish of a series that's only partway through in its publication. And for me, that is The Rag Picker King by Cassandra Clare. I love Cassandra Clare books, but I certainly put them off because of the size of them. However, she is so palatable and you can devour her books in a week. The characters are just beautiful. You feel so connected to them. You want the best for them, but they go through so many harrowing challenges, and I know that this series is going to be the same. This is kind of her first adult fantasy series. It's definitely going to be a winter read for me, so I need to seriously get cracking on starting the first book and then moving into the second. So these are 2 that I really want to get done by the end of the year. You know, you've had a good old yap about books when your battery goes flat as you try to film the outro. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you have enjoyed me giving you a serious debrief of my past 6 months of reading and what the next 6 months of my reading aims to look like. But you never know, things change. New releases pop up by debut authors that you never knew were coming and totally change what your reading cycle is going to look like. Please leave some comments down below of some of your favorite books that you have read this year. I would love to add them to my list, my ever-growing list, and I hope to see you in the next video very soon. Bye!